I always love this Dilbert comic because they made this joke breaking down the word consultant. If you break down the words, you got con and you got salt. Con man, insult. You combine them and you get a consultant. He cons you by insulting you, telling you how bad
That's
you're doing,
perfect.
by telling you how bad you're doing and having you pay him to do so. And it's the perfect game,
Wow.
you know? And so,
Let me put you on game.
Let's move on to our last topic of the day. Let's talk Kevin Samuels, man.
mm.
It's a very spicy topic, a very controversial person, but I wanted to talk about him because we've had a similar conversation about uh Derek Jackson, who is a similar, he's in basically the same area of quote unquote expertise.
Mm.
So go back and check out that conversation that we had a few months back if you haven't. But uh Kevin Samuels is a lifestyle coach, dating guru, and image consultant. Uh, his net worth, this is not official, but it's speculated to be around $3 million. He has 800,000 followers on Instagram and 800,000 subscribers on YouTube. And people essentially go to him to help them with their image in order to gain more success, whether that be personally, romantically, or professionally.
Mm.
So he's a very controversial character for a variety of reasons. But I wanted to get your perspective. Like, how do you feel about good old Kev?
So Samuels is, I have a couple of opinions on him, but I think to round it out, he gives advice to people who are trying to succeed, but he is very narrow minded in the perspective that he provides, and he lives in a superficial world. And if you want idiot prizes, you play idiot games. That's kind of harsh to say, but
No,
at
it's
the
true
end of
though.
the, yeah, and the games that he's playing are superficial games, valuing people for their bodies, valuing people for their income, and treating people as if they are commodities from both a male and a female perspective, without much credentials in giving advice as you would seek from a counselor or a therapist. And so, I always love this Dilbert comic because they made this joke breaking down the word consultant. If you break down the words, you got con and you got salt. Con man, insult. You combine them and you get a consultant. He cons you by insulting you, telling you how bad
That's
you're doing,
perfect.
by telling you how bad you're doing and having you pay him to do so. And it's the perfect game,
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
and what's sad and frustrating is that he exploits black women and other people to get the notoriety that he's getting, and they're all coming to him for this advice, and they see him as somebody who is successful. They see him as somebody who is a standard bearer and somebody who will tell them the quote unquote truth. But in reality, all he's doing is reiterating a bunch of old stereotypical ideas about what it's like to be a high value man or woman, and to play those games, and to be about what it looks like to make high value money, what it looks like to be a high value woman, and creating all these standards that are really hard to keep up with, and trying to taper people's expectations. The latter part is understandable. People should taper their expectations towards what they are, because there are harsh realities of what it's like to be a person, to be desirable, to be wanted by your peers. But it's not helpful in understanding that there's so much middle ground, and you shouldn't pay someone to tell you what is kind of obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, your value as a man isn't all about your pockets, and your value as a woman isn't always just about the way that you look, you know. But for
Yeah.
him, he's kind of narrowed it into it being that. But like that analogy, that Dilbert analogy is perfect, because that's literally all he does is just insult people
Yeah.
consistently. And it's just like the whole thing is a clown show. Like I just can't understand why people sign up for this. I can't understand why like women will tune in to just have their self-esteem just tanked by this guy. And
Yeah.
like you said, he doesn't really have any area of expertise. Like he does this thing like consistently where he'll ask women to rate themselves, and he'll say like, don't say a 7, because that puts you in a position where you either have to say an 8 or you have to say a 6, because that's where most people will fall into. They'll most likely fall in somewhere between like a 5 and a 9. So you have to either rate yourself as a 6, which he'll agree with and he'll go along with that. Or if you like step outside of, what he expects of you and you rate yourself an 8, he'll proceed to tell you why you're not, and break you down like feature by feature, personality trait by personality trait, until you eventually relent and say like, no, well, maybe I'm not an 8, maybe I am a 6. And then he can proceed to tell you like, based on his own standards, how you can potentially be an 8. So it's this like this vicious cycle of, like you said, outdated beauty standards and standards of genders in order to boost himself up, essentially. Like I've seen like I'll give him this. He is charismatic to the point where his videos have a certain level of entertainment value. Like
Yeah.
when he told our old girl that she looked like a running back, I chuckled. it's it's not right, but I chuckled. But like I just can't. I guess I can chuckle because like he's not going out of his way to insult women that aren't asking him for advice. So I guess
Yeah.
if you, like you said, if you're gonna play these childlike games, you're gonna get childlike prizes, and that's the game that these women are playing. So it's like you're putting yourself into this arena with this guy who just is just given full license to just degrade you.
Yeah.
And it's almost like watching like a Maury or a Jerry Springer show. Like there's a certain level of entertainment value for it, but you can also acknowledge that the dude is a terrible person.
Yeah.
So I do wonder why like we said, why women will go to him for advice, and why men will agree with him, and why people that we follow and people that we know will basically give this to the dude the time of the day, when I feel like it's very clear that he hates women.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about what we value as a society, and why individuals like him and a Derek Jackson can be so successful is because they're doing two things. They're telling some half truths, and they're giving people what they want to hear. And some men want to be validated and seek validation through a Kevin Samuels. And I get it twisted. He also comes from men too. I remember him talking to some dude, and he was like, "So you're 5'4", you're bald, and you're overweight, brother. You need to, he made some kind of joke, and I was like, yeesh. So everybody can get it if they aren't up to his standards. But at the same
But it is
time,
mostly women. Like I guess that's why I was referring to, because it is mostly women. I think he does treat
yeah,
women. He treats everyone like crap, but I feel like he reserves like his best insults for women.
yeah, and ultimately he gets this attention because part of our society values those things. We generally see some things that he says to be true because people do like people who have money and who are financially stable. People do like people who are attractive, but it's just not the only thing that we value. And we have to bring more balance and stop having this binary conversation of high value man versus high value woman. You're either that or you're not, and you got to settle. It's what can you do to find the right partner for you? What can you realistically control? What can't you control? And let's focus on the things that you can control, as opposed to just degrading people, as opposed to lowering people's self-esteem and just telling people how terrible they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And getting paid to do that, and having more wholesome conversations about people and their mental health, about people and their ability to produce something of value in the world and to contribute and give back. And I hope that this conversation at least helps people realize, like, you know, your value is more than what you look like. It's more than what you bring to the table financially. And you can be a more holistic person who contributes to their community, who is cherished by their loved ones, and who can bring all different types of intangibles to the game, as well as their love life.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about someone that's going to give advice to people for them to better themselves, like, I think the advice needs to be centered around just being a better person. Like, I think that's what we all strive to be day to day, is just to be better than you were yesterday, or to just be kinder, be more well-rounded. And I think that, like, I think we've all seen, like, let's say you have a family member that's like overweight, right?
Right.
The best thing to do in that situation is probably not to say anything at all. But like, that person will be a lot more motivated and a lot more healthy, like, if you can motivate them in the right way, or like if they actually come to the realization themselves that they actually want to be healthier, rather than like starving themselves or overworking themselves in the gym because someone is telling them that they're not good enough, you know? So for these women, like, it's a lot better for them, in my opinion, for them to find the motivation within themselves and find the motivation to be better than they were yesterday, rather than having these quote unquote, you know, self-help gurus or image consultants like beating them down to the point where their self-worth is so low that they feel like they have to change. And then once they do change, now they're saddled with all of these insecurities that they developed
Right.
from when they sought help from this person that clearly does not have their best interests in mind. So like you said, like, I hope people just realize that it's not the be all end all. There's so much more to being a human being than these like really outdated values, and that we can strive for more than just what's on the surface.
Yeah. Likewise. Likewise, bro.
Yeah. Long story short, man, stop listening to these people. Like, stop, like, stop reposting their videos. If you want to watch it for entertainment value, that's fine, but don't intake this stuff into your soul. Don't. And I mean, for the love of God, do not pay them to give you terrible advice, because that's what's happening. That's why his net worth is so high. People are paying to be degraded, and that's why Derek Jackson probably lives in like an 8-bedroom house, is because people are just, like you said, they're paying for these half truths. So please, just for everyone that listens to this guy, especially for the women, please just like think more of yourself. You're worth so much more than getting on a conference call with somebody like this and having them degrade you. Like, go to therapy. Like, find an actual therapist that's willing to sit down and listen to all the trauma that you've endured or everything that you've experienced as a person, and actually willing to help you, like, if you're falling apart, help you put yourself back together, not break you down further to the point where like you feel like you're not worth anything. So, you know, you have to change because the only way is up, you know?
Because that's exactly what he does. He does not seem to care that much about your context and your background. And he tends to see those things as baggage. He's like, what do you bring to the table? Kids, this, that, this kind of trauma? Oh no, that's baggage.
Oh
sister.
my, bro. when he said, like, he's, and people are listening to this kind of stuff, but like have you seen him compare like women with children to like lions?
Yeah. And it's
Like the whole, you know, if a man sees or if a male lion sees a lioness with cubs, like, he'll kill them or abandon them. And it's like he'll tell women that that's how men see them, when that's not the case at all. And it completely ignoring the fact that men be having hella kids and nobody wants to really look down on them for that. But just the whole like super basic, incredibly wrong ideas that he can just twist into this way that people digest it and actually believe it. And the women will be like, yeah, you got a point. It's like, no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any points. I don't know why you're on this call, but yeah, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy the world we live in. You can literally anyone can have a platform now because of the existence of social media to just spew whatever kind of damaging thoughts that they have.
Yeah, that's a fact. But at least we try to be in a position to shed some light and a different perspective. And hopefully, we can just be agents of self-esteem and proper mental health preparation to cope with the challenges of just being a human. We got enough that tears us down. We don't need people who are ignorant and unqualified to help us out in the public spotlight, getting the majority of attention. So
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, help everyone be better as we try to better ourselves. So